Hello and welcome back to our series where we are building this people and culture management system. Now, this series is brought to you by Prairie HR Solutions. My name is Jake Finger, founder and principal consultant here at Prairie HR Solutions. And we did finish this, but I want to go back and revisit simply based on a question which led to a suggestion um, from someone. And that was, how could I use this to find a potential salary for a new hire or promotion? Well, typically you could just go over and say, if that person has 8 years of experience in our fictitious data, 8 years of experience, then you can just go up here to this, trend line or thereabout and say, okay, this would be the equitable piece. That would be a good practice if this, of course, was cleaned up a little bit. And we have a series on conducting an actual salary analysis using this data actually on a separate video. So if you're interested in how to do that, I suggest you jump over and look at that. But the idea was, how can we just create a button that would open up something to allow us to calculate? We just enter experience and it takes the data that we already have here and figures out a suggested salary. And, a very, very intriguing idea. And that's where this is eventually would evolve to anyhow. So I'd like to take this time to actually build that. And we're going to take the same approach as we did before. What we'll do is we will lay out the structure and the appearance and all that, lay it out here somewhere. I'm thinking somewhere in this area. And then the next video, we will actually write the code or dip into the code that we already have to make that actually work. So the idea, just to recap that idea, we want a user, say it's HR or a manager or whatnot, to be able to come in and press a button, which will open up something, and they can enter, one, the job title, of course, and two, the experience, and then press another button that says calculate, and it would give, based on this linear regression, a proposed salary that would be equal to what the data is here. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if we're going off of, say, this trend line here, this linear regression trend line, and we do something to any one of these employees, even add data in here, this line is going to change. When you add data, even if it's subtle, when you add data or take away data or adjust the data, your linear regression will change. So there's a little bit of forward thinking here. And the salary analysis video that we have kind of illustrates that. We had an anomaly up here. We found out that that person was the supervisor of all the others, so really belonged in a different class, not with that data. And once we removed that, the trend line changed dramatically. So keep that in mind when you're trying to set salaries, that this trend line is in constant motion based on this data. And once you add data into it, it's going to change that trend line. So take the proposed salary as a suggestion and then think how it's going to change, even model it if you need to within your data to see the impact. So let's jump in here. So I wanted to create the layout here. And the way I want to do this is I don't want to clutter this up anymore. I mean, this dashboard is getting pretty packed. So we don't need another section per se for a calculator on our sheet here. But what we could do is somewhat of a modal. So we already have a modal here, and this is way back when, earlier in our series, we created this instruction modal, and we can use the same idea, and we'll just create another one here for those that are kind of jumping around in the series, maybe not following it through. This way we can just create this separate to where y'all have it for a example. So we'll create another modal to where it pops up when we maybe hit a button. So let's go create that button and place it, I would say, right underneath our, let's see how this is going to look. I believe race is the longest one that we have. Yes. So we can just put a button right here. So since we're using Bootstrap, let's jump over to Bootstrap and see what they got in their toolkit that we can use. So I'm looking at the components piece, and we don't want an accordion. We don't need that. Not necessarily a badge. If you want to get clever, you can do that. We're going to need a button, obviously, but let's look at the modals and see, just something simple right here. Instead of save changes, this will be calculate. We have a close button, the X, of course. So yeah, so let's just grab this, but, well, actually, there we go. That's exactly what we want. So I know the modal is coming off in a different Z index, so you're not able to see it. But what's happening is a modal is popping up right here with a modal title, and then a body. Woohoo, you're reading this text in a modal. Okay, that's kind of clever. And then 2 buttons. So if you're following along, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So all we're going to do is we're just going to copy this, and we can use the button. And then what we can do is come back over here to our main code here, and we're looking at our total rewards page. Now let me make this a little bigger because I'm seeing that's kind of tiny. So let me make this a little bigger here for everyone. There we go. It's probably better. Okay, so where we're going to want this is we are going to want this right underneath this line, right before this span. So let's find that area here. So here's our body, and here's our other modal, so we should be getting close. Compensation, all divisions. So past it. Okay, well, here we go. So what we're looking at and looking for is here's all our charts. So we have the chart container, the chart. This is the chart that's populated. This is the button to make it go full screen. And then here is the chart legend. And then this is the horizontal line. This is the horizontal line right here. So I would, for now, I'm going to put it right here. And I can just put the whole modal there. Okay, here we go. So now the way Bootstrap works, so put it right here past this HR. Maybe we'll put another HR, that horizontal line right there, just to kind of give us some separation between everything else. Okay, so the way Bootstrap works with their modals is this data BS target right here triggers the modal. So this hashtag example modal is this ID right here. So we can change this to, well, we'll see how it works first. We can change this to match that, and it would work just fine. So what this means is when this button is clicked, it's going to use this data BS target, selecting this ID here, to open that modal and then close that modal. So they've already done a lot of the scripting operation, so to speak, already for us, which is nice. And all we have to do is just kind of tailor it and fine tune it. So let's save this and then go back and see how this actually looks. You'll see that this is going to be a tab index. This is the Z index of -1, which means it will pop up on top of our page. So let's come back here and refresh so we can pick that code up. And right here, launch demo modal. We click it and the modal is popping up. Okay, you should be seeing that. Did a little bit of adjustments while we were gone, so you should be seeing that modal now. Okay, so good. And then of course this won't be save changes, this will be calculate, and this will be closed. So now what we need inside our body here is, you see they have these 2 little spots. We're going to need to do some changes here, we're going to need to put a couple of input labels in here. So let's go back over here to our Bootstrap, come up here to an input group. Just use an input group here, and we'll keep with the same theme, a span followed by an input group. So we can just come up here and grab this. Now, since we're going to put this inside the modal, what we're going to look for is we're going to turn this input into essentially what's called a child, and this modal body right here is going to be the parent. So what we're going to replace right here, instead of the dots to show, we're going to have this input group. And it's not going to be this. Let's just put this as experience. Okay, and we'll need, let's just say candidates experience here. We'll give our label here for our screen readers, like so. So the class is going to be form control. We're going to need an ID eventually to grab it. And that ID is going to be salary analysis experience. Call it that. Okay, good. Instead of modal title, we'll call this salary analysis. We'll just say predictor for now. I guess it's not really a predictor. Proposal. There we go. And instead of this example modal, instead of having it example, let's just do salary modal. And we need to change this here so it'll work. Button primary, we already went through CSS to change that, so that's fine. We don't need the button here to say launch modal though. What we need to do is new employee, new salary analysis. You can name that whatever it is you want, but that's what we'll do. Now our buttons, let's come down here and look at our buttons. So obviously the close is going to dismiss it. This is going to run a function that we don't have, but instead of save changes, we'll just say this is going to be calculate. Okay, so let's save this and now see, we really don't need to worry about primary, secondary because our CSS is taking care of any and every button. So let's save this and refresh and see what we got. New salary analysis, we click on this button, pops it up. As you can see, our CSS is in line and following. Maybe you want to do a text center with that. Calculate and close. Good. And then there's a border around this primary that we can either keep or not. Completely depends on you, and that border is also shared here. So, okay, good. Good. Let's come back over here and see if we can center this title here. And that is this right here. Now to center it, let's come back over here to our Bootstrap code and see how it is that they handle centering text. We could do it in, regular CSS, but why create something if they already have it? So let's look at text, and that's under our utilities. And you can see, there it is, center aligned on all viewport sizes. Okay, that's awesome. We don't have to do that. So it looks like it's just this class right here. And since we're already loading their library, all we have to do is copy this and come back over. And what it is that we want to center, we just add that class to it. Now this FS5 is the font size in their documentation, and that 5 is smaller, so you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It works the same way as like heading, head 1, head 2, head 3, and whatnot. Okay, so that should take care of that. And then we have this span here coming over. So let's refresh that and just take a look at that span again. And by span, I mean how far it's going. Okay, so this is coming all the way across. You know, that's fine, I suppose. One thing that I would like to do though is, so this experience box here is only going to be used to input. We're not going to receive anything here. So this can actually be a number. And then let's put a results button down, or a results input down here. But let's first change that to a number. And how we do that is, you see this input type text. Instead of text, we can put number here. And what it's going to do is it's going to realize that this input type is actually a number. So it's going to adjust itself accordingly. So when we come back here and refresh, you'll see that all these here are either texts or drop downs. Like this is text, this is text. Now granted, this is disabled. You know, we can't actually change this. But when you open up your new salary, you'll notice that we still have that same text, but now we have the ability to work with numbers. And you'll see that we can go up or down. So we need to format this a little bit. But if we were to type in, try to type in like letters, it will not let you. It will only accept numbers. Now, when we're calculating experience, whether your company practice, in our case, this fictional company, essentially does an analysis on a candidate's experience based on their specific role and then adds that to their database, and then we can simply just write a formula from today's date, however many years they have. Of course, you do it that way. But when you're doing that, unless the person has exactly X number of years in January, and it is January, this number is going to be a decimal. Now, you could be fine with that and just say, well, we're just only going to use whole years. Or you could drill in and say, okay, well, we really want to know the decimal. So let me show you how to do that real quick. Let's come back over here to our Bootstrap code and let's find this. Let's look at our input group and then see if they have a min and a max. If they don't, we'll just create it. I'm sure they do. Okay, not in there. That's validation is probably what it's in. So instead, let me come up here and number input. Let's check that. Oh, okay. So it's actually in range. So we're able to put in here that we want the min to be something and the max to be something else. So let's just grab this and see if we can use this. If not, we can do it a different way. Okay, so it's a number, and that is on it's not on the class, it's within the element itself. So let's just put it right here at the end. We'll say it's just 0 to 5 right now, just for demonstration purposes, and then we'll go and modify that. Let's refresh it to pick that code up. Now what this is going to force it to do is we are not going to be able to go past 0. Notice how I'm clicking down, I'm just mashing it, frantically mashing it, but it's not letting us go past 0 because that's the min for this. We also have the max is 5, and you'll notice that we can't actually go past 5. So we can set the maximum to what it is that we don't want it to go past, and let's just set the maximum number of years. I mean, you can set this to, of course, whatever you want, but let's just think to ourselves here, something realistic. You could say 50 years experience. You don't want to exclude anybody because of their potential age, of course, because there could be individuals who are working at your company that has truly 50 years of experience. So let's just put 100 here, or maybe, let's just leave it at 100. But like I said, you can change this to whatever you want. And if you want to drill into it, you can go back to your Bootstrap and see the increments. But for now, this is fine. So now what we need to do is let's create a reminder here because we're going to build onto it. This is the modal title. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to grab this and create another one for results. And this one is going to be proposed salary. We'll say this is prop. If you are doing this, if you're doing this on your own, kind of following along for your own needs in your organization, I highly suggest, and I will do this at the very end here, we will create a line of instructions to kind of cover, one, how to use the thing, but two, how not to use it. Just kind of reiterating that this is a proposed salary based on the current data given, to include anomalies, care should be given, always consult such and such, sort of those type things. And I highly suggest you do so if you have more than one person into this calculator, if you're doing it yourself. Okay, so we have 2 now. So let's come back here and look and see if there's anything else that we need to do with this or would like to. Oh, let me refresh. We'll see how it looks. Proposed salary, candidate's proposed salary. Now this is a number. Let's change this to simply, change this to text because we really don't need this, and we don't need it to be in a number because it's simply just going to regurgitate this. And we also want to make this disabled. We don't need it to be changed. So what I did was I came in here and I removed this min max, just got rid of that thing, changed it back to text because it's going to receive plain text back or just anything back. And then I made it disabled just so users can't go in and start typing what it is that they want. Never know. Okay, now let's go back and look at this. See how it looks. Okay, so it's actually freezing. So it's actually freezing this. I guess that's fine. Because if you were using this with 100% zoom, you would see this anyway. So, I mean, that's fine. One thing that I do want to grab is the job title. I want to put the job title in here somewhere because we don't want to say salary analysis and then the person is actually grabbing the data for something that we don't want. So proposed salary, we can put in here. Okay, that actually didn't align. I just noticed that. So that didn't align to the center. We'll have to see what's going on there. But what we may do is put up here as a title, maybe like an H3 or whatnot, just the job title. So let's go ahead and put something there for that. Let's come back over here and see what we got there. And we are looking at, let's look at our text again, just to make sure we're not going to do anything or use something that they want, that they already have. And if we don't, then we're not going to do anything that's going to be make things off. So they use the P class, those little paragraph classes. We can do that. We can definitely use with that. We could also just write a literal in there to pass whatever value it is of that drop down box here. And that may be what we do. Yeah, so let's just do that. Let's create a P class. And here are the font sizes that we have. Maybe what we can do is do a bold text for that job title. So let's come up and let's just grab a P and then we'll tailor it. Okay, so let's come back over here. And where we're going to want this P is right up at the beginning of the body. So we're going to want this right here. Start align text on all viewports. Yep, that's great. Thank you. But what we're going to do is welcome to, maybe not welcome. This is a proposed salary placement for a specific candidate within the, and now let's write another P in here. So we have a P and a P. We can clean this up in a second. Let's put class, and that class is going to be our bold. Like this. So we can come in here and just add that in here. We want this to be right here. Now remember, since this is coming in as a string in text, want to make sure you pay attention to your spacings. We'll just do default job. Okay, so that ends that. We won't need that, but then we can carry on. Please enter the candidate's experience and press calculate. Okay, so let's go see how this looks. May want to italicize the job title too, but let's just get this placed correctly. Let's refresh it. Alrighty, so let's see what we got here. Okay, this is a proposed salary placement for the specific candidate within the default job. It's got a space, and a dot. So we can clean this up and maybe have it in line unless you want to handle it with something like this. I think I would rather have it just in line here. So in order to do it in line, what we could do is work a little bit differently. So instead of our P, let's just put this as, let's come back over here to our code. And instead of, see how we wrapped it in a separate P? This is just bad habit anyway. Because a P is going to do a hard return, and a div is typically going to do a hard return as well, just on how we have things set up. But what we're going to use instead of this P, let me find an example. It's right here, this span. So now this span, because it's part of this input group, goes on the front, but a span can also be used to just separate a specific word. Now, if we were writing this in just regular HTML, we would simply just give it specific tags. Like this would be strong. And if we did, this is strong, and then saved it. So this is just regular HTML default tag. So if we were to save that and refresh it, and then come back here, and then look at this, you'll see that it's in line and it's bolded. So you can just use regular HTML default language or tags here. I would like to see how the span works. Just because we're using Bootstrap, like to use what they have. You can definitely use this. And what we're going to need is to add that class to this span. And that class is equal to, let's go back over here and see what it is. It was FW bold, which probably stands for font weight, I'm sure. And then maybe let's make it italic 2, which is FST italic. If you were using just regular HTML tags, it would just simply be a I, italic, and then that should make this entire span that format with nothing else in the paragraph. So let's see how that works. Shouldn't make a bit of difference because the span is within that P class. Yep, perfect. So now we can pass this default job, we can pass it as a literal from whatever, or what we could do is, and we'll do this with our JavaScript, we can give this span an ID and then set this text to whatever that is. And that's probably the approach we'll go. We'll just have it handled dynamically outside and automatically. Okay, good. So yeah, actually, let's do that now. Let's do ID job span. Oops. Might be useful for y'all to know how we're doing this and able to change the text within a span or a label-ish type thing. Okay, good. So we have that. And we have our layout here. Okay, the first thing, no, I want to move this over. It looks like it moved it over, but it's not centering it in this element. And I think that's because this is broken up into a grid. So let's actually look at how we can change that real quick before we before we call this done. And what we did was we could use this text, which, centers the text, but I think what we're doing is we are setting the text, we're centering the text. Let me come down here and find it. I actually accidentally hit the button here. We're centering the text on the actual text. And what we want to do is center the text in that parent box. So, yep, there it is. Okay, so here's our span. And see, we have our header up here. Our header, and we have this text center here. So all it's doing is centering this within this H1. So the H1 tag exists here, and then the salary analysis proposal is centered within this H1. But what we want to do is we want to center it within this whole header space. So what we can do is just grab this, cut it out of there, and put it right here. And then whatever is below this is going to be centered there within that box instead of just the H1. So now that should take care of it. Okay, nope, still not. Still not. Okay, we may have to do some content. I'll play around with this and then give you an answer on the next one. So I'm going to end this video here because right now we are up to the point of writing our JavaScript. So we'll dedicate an entire video to that, and I'll figure out what's going on with this and why that's not working. But okay, good. I hope to see you in the next episode and video when we create the JavaScript for this thing. And until next time, please take care.